Look at Daluz. He not impressed. 300 tough men contest.
Yeah, really.
I don't care how many he lost. He had to come to fight. You can't fake it in those.
Gentlemen, you have received instructions in the dressing rooms. Obey my commands at all times and protect yourselves at all times. Your belts, they're perfect. Anything below here is a low blow. Shake hands. God bless.
And as is usually the case with Gary Stark, he does not look at his opponent during the referee's final instructions.
Whatever works, right? Well, you know, it's so much easier to say Daluz in black because I can't figure out the color of Gary Stark's trunks. What would you say?
It reminds me of Halloween is what it does.
A little bit.
Yeah, the black and the...
Not quite. Yeah, it's a shiny orange, so... We'll see. Again, Stark has had a fight and a win, a distance win in Louisville, Kentucky, against an overmatched opponent to start building that confidence. But, you know, he hangs his heart and emotions on his sleeve, Steve. You know, when he talks to us, he's just such a likable guy. We've said it so many times. And he's just so purely honest that, of course, you wonder if you still have it, if you're in the right game. And you just can't put it behind you. It's such a tough sport. It's not like you made an error like, you know, and lost the World Series even. It's a team game. This is different.
And let's face it, when Gary Stark got knocked out on Broadway Boxing, we were worried about him. I mean, it was a devastating knockout.
I remember going back in the dressing room after.
Yeah.
Really had to feel for him.
He's a very skilled fighter, New York Golden Glove champion. That has to help him overcome the psychological trauma of being KO'd. He has to believe in his own ability. And he has to box.
And that's what I'm with you on that. And it looks like he is definitely. Let Daluz run into shots. Nice overhand right as Stark really fired that ball.
Landed on the shoulder, though. Didn't do any damage. The crowd overreacted a little bit there.
Oh, a good right from Daluz. He gets a little wild. He wants to take Stark out of his comfort zone, like here. He wants to be inside and smother him and be in his face and pressure. Will that be a mistake or not? Stark wisely brings the fight back into the center of the ring. Really intriguing to watch this one. All about the mental state of Gary Stark. Anxious, angry, despondent, but now more motivated. There's that jab right hand. I like his right hand. Even and he's still going for it there. And Daluz being more evasive. But Daluz talked to me yesterday at the weigh-in, said he felt he was longer again, taller. But as they match up here, it's apparent he's not. So he's got to get inside. And Stark's not going to accommodate him so easily, Steve.
No,
as you mentioned. Right.
Yeah.
Good move by boxing. Good as he sinks a right hand to the belly and then follows up with that right hand to the head. So Stark punching wisely, volume punching combinations. Moving right and then left again, controlling flow, action, pace, dictating distance. So Gary Stark early in the fight doing all the right things.
Well, you know, his dad, who knows him so well as a fighter, put it best yesterday. He said he wants Gary to have fun. He wants the kid to have fun in the ring. If Gary starts boxing well, he's having fun. That means making the other guy miss, making the other guy look silly, depending on speed and movement.
Right hand from Daluz, a little bit of a desperation. Stark was simply off balance there. He gets wrapped, though, body, and then a clean-up left hook to the head. It says bring it on a little bit more. But that was a good flurry for Robert Daluz. That's a throwdown. And referee Telis Asamanios wisely called that immediately. Very interesting fight here, scheduled for 8. Gary Stark on the left from Brooklyn. And Bobby, as he calls himself, Daluz, Providence, Rhode Island, former tough man.
And Bobby Daluz's regular trainer is Peter Manfredo Sr., not here. He has a commitment in California. Always tough for a fighter to go on the road without his regular guy.
Yeah, I got to say one thing Daluz is doing differently. He came out throwing the jab. And now Stark, not a heavy puncher, excellent counter puncher, but let's see a little bit more countering from him. He's been good at making the play and controlling, as we said, much of the distance and pace of this fight. But the one little thing he hasn't done so far there with 3 shots keying off is when Daluz throws, avoiding shots or catching them and countering.
What to keep in mind about Daluz, yeah, he's lost almost as much as he's won, but 9 of his 10 wins have come by knockout.
Ah, good point. Stark probes to the body with that jab. Good idea. He's done that a lot. It's a good weapon to have. Wild shot from Daluz, and Stark climbs all over him quickly. They keep turning. Good pace to this fight. A lot of movement. A lot of angles from both guys. Stark a little wide with the hook, but follow up straight right hand. Stark left and a right, then bangs to the body well. Back comes Daluz with a right and then wraps Stark, who sticks his tongue out, but good body shot combinations from Daluz, and now he's paying the price, getting hit flush with shots from Stark.
You talk about Stark sticking his tongue out. Normally, I don't like that, but to me, that's an indication that Gary Stark's beginning to have some fun in there. And knowing him, as we do, we've called most of his fights on Broadway boxing. It's very important for him to have fun. That means he's loose. That means he'll defend himself better.
There's that left from Stark. He's not throwing the jab as much anymore. It's more a hook than right hand. There's the jab, doubling but missing. Daluz forgot without a lot of real experience, hanging in very nicely and making this a very competitive fight, a good one. Now Daluz elects to hang on, try to rough up a little bit. He'll bounce off, sink a left hook to the body. But they're punching in between, at least punching with Stark.
I see a difference in Daluz from the first round, Nick. He's much more defensive. He's backing up. He doesn't seem as willing to want to initiate the action.
Maybe he's getting hit flush and feeling it. And there at the tail end comes Stark. So Stark keeps punching. Punch first, punch last. And looking good here in the second. And a good one so far. Junior featherweights, Gary Stark on the comeback trail. You know, every time he stepped up this year, he has failed, Steve. We saw him lose a questionable decision to Mike Oliver. February 7th, in fact, we called that fight. And then in May, that devastating one-punch KO loss to Andres Ledesma.
That Oliver fight, I don't know anybody that thinks Oliver deserved the decision in that fight. Nick, I scored it close. I think I was overcompensating because I like Gary Stark so much, to be honest with you. But that was a very hard loss for him because it was his first loss, and he didn't think he deserved to lose that fight.
Well, you know, and then he overanalyzed, saying, if I wouldn't have lost that fight, I wouldn't have had to fight Ledesma. I would have stepped up, but it's stupid to do that, or it's incorrect to do that. One thing, you got to connect the dots with your career, and sometimes those dots and the lines are very broken. It's not always a straight line on the way up. There's Stark, double right hand.
Part of Gary Stark's problem as a fighter is that he's not a big puncher, but he's got a fighter's and a puncher's mentality to him. He really likes to mix it up. He's full of heart. We saw that in the Oliver fight.
Yeah, and you know, he's doing the right thing here, in my opinion, Steve. He is making the play because, as you mentioned, Daluz has stopped trying to do that. So if Daluz isn't going to come to him and Stark can't sit and counter, he's got to be first. Why wait? Good right hand as he drills Daluz 3 times with it. Tries to set up that right off the left.
Hold, guys, come on.
The Stark really fighting under a lot more control, not trying to get careless. Keeping his hands up, picking off shots there, staying out of range. And Daluz in a spot where he can't land.
Well, Stark's mixing up, being aggressive and moving around and using the ring. But Daluz is not moving his hands as much as he did in the first one. No doubt about that.
Doesn't close the distance, Daluz, and there's Stark with a little double hitch step there, and then the left, and there's a right hand from Stark, and now Stark opens up with a fiery combination. Good right hands. Now they pick it up a notch, big time. Really getting into it. A little bit of talking here, a lot of slugging. Spirited action here in the third in Hollywood, Florida. Glad you're with us for Broadway Boxing. Stark feinting, fading, and when Daluz doesn't do anything, he's able to punch when he wants, rest when he wants, control the ring. Good exchange there, not flush shots. Stark with the better of round 3. And he comes out swinging. Really picking it up here. No jab. Just trying to bull his way in. Stark really able to take that little step back. And now it's Gary moving forward. Working off the jab. Gets hit in the exchange on the way in. Nothing serious. Daluz has to pick up the volume. Pick up the offense.
Yeah, he's just not fighting enough to win these rounds 2 and 3. Stark is like all good boxers. He'd much rather his opponent come to him, makes his job much easier.
Yeah, it hasn't been happening.
And Daluz isn't coming to
And
him.
that's why, as we mentioned, he has to chase him down a little bit, but he's doing it measured. In measured steps, very much under control, very smart aggression. Now that we're talking a little bit more.
What's helping Gary Stark's defense is when Daluz does punch, sometimes it's real wide.
Absolutely right.
Stark sees the shots coming and just keeps his hands up.
There's a left hand on the way out from Daluz. Nothing serious. Over the top with a right goes Stark. Stark bangs to the body and they wrestle a little bit. Telis Asamenios sees they're still punching. No need to break them. Stark, good combination, solid as he rips through the gloves of Daluz. Daluz wide with his shots again, very wild. Stark walking in with a left hand, then followed by a right. Not a lot of straight shots from either guy right now.
Stark does a good job, though, mixing up his punches, body, head, body.
Yeah.
Always does.
Even leading to the body again. I like that jab to the body. Not an easy thing to do effectively. Stark is in the orange. All black is Robert Daluz of Providence, Rhode Island. 10-8-2, 9 KOs.
And Nick, what's amazing is that at this point in each fighter's career, they've never fought each other. There are not a lot of 122-pounders on the East Coast. It was inevitable that they would fight each other eventually. I would have guessed it would have come a lot earlier than this.
Stark just being elusive now. Now measuring. Big flurry. Corner wants him to jab. Good counter from Daluz. Daluz can't pull the trigger there as we finish the fourth. Oh, nice hook before the bell by Gary Stark. You know what I like about Daluz, he's never stopped trying in this fight and really doesn't believe that he can't win the fight, but comes bouncing off the stool, ready to go, but again, he's got to pick it up a little bit more. He doesn't have the skills that Stark has, it's apparent.
Yeah, that's about the point I was going to make. He's 20. He started boxing at 20, 21 years old. Had only about 30 or 40 amateur bouts. And it shows. He punches too wide. And he's fighting in spots. You know, when you weigh 122 pounds, you have to be a little busier. And I think that ultimately, if this fight continues the way it's been going, I think that's going to cost Daluz on the cards.
Oh, I'm with you there. Stark avoiding shots. Very economical with his own. Ripping to the body with a lead right hand. So taking the kind of liberties you could take when a guy isn't punching back. Enough.
Yeah, Stark just seems to have a little better idea of where to place his punches. And Gary Stark always punches in combination.
One thing I like to see, Steve, in the progression of a fighter, and Gary Stark in particular, because he's the guy with the upside here, you would think, is creating some openings, maybe setting some traps.
It's tough. He's having trouble scoring consistently because his man is giving him so little to work with.
How so? Not able to counter because he's not doing enough, or do you think he's that elusive or covering up or defensive?
He keeps his hands up, and when Stark comes forward, Daluz moves backward. Look at the distance right now. Neither guy could land a jab from that distance. It would be pointless to jab. You're only going to get countered. And they're at that distance because Daluz keeps stepping back.
Well, Gary Stark definitely has the hand speed on Daluz. He hasn't been using any kind of feints to maybe get Daluz to bite on one and then counter him. They're missing with the counter shots.
Now, what was that about? Stark spit. It didn't look like he was spitting his opponent, but it didn't miss Daluz by more than a couple of inches.
I would split the difference there between the mat and the opponent.
And a poor photographer also got it.
Stark, double right hand. And
now a photographer gets blamed for Daluz tripping over a camera. It's becoming a little bit of a problem here.
Flurry from Stark to the body. Closing out this 5th of a scheduled 8-rounder. Gary Stark from Brooklyn. Dominating this fight. And doing it by outboxing Bobby Daluz. Let's see if Stark gets back on the jab. A lot of his left hands have been the hook variety that have landed. And if the punch is there, why not take it even as a lead? Now hooking to the head. He'll slam right hands to the body as a lead. Poke that jab to the body. But now out of range, not pulling the trigger, and Daluz sort of walking his way in. Stark controlling distance, takes that step back, restarts. See that little hook rather than a jab. There's the straight right hand, and now Stark trying to load up. But he really keeps moving, doesn't he, Steve?
He does. And when you think about where Gary Stark is, and on my card, he seems to be en route to a decision win here. You know, when you have to suffer a knockout like he did, you don't come back in one fight. You don't come back in 1 year sometimes. His promotional stablemate, J-Don Codrington, found that out. Edgar Santana, another Broadway boxing favorite.
Some guys never come back.
Yeah, it's not easy. And you really have to be mentally strong, and it takes a while. I mean, fighters are confident and cocky, but deep down inside, they're so emotionally vulnerable because of how naked they are in the ring.
Yeah, and Gary Stark is the first to admit it. He absolutely is. He questioned himself.
He's a great kid. He really is. And he's a sensitive kid. That's not always good boxing.
Yeah, well, the sensitivity was the shame and such as well, but the self-doubt is something that he's got to overcome. Do I still have? What took me as far as it took me?
Well, his dad
that was
said
a careless mistake, Steve.
Yeah.
Dropped his hands.
Well,
and
he was
got
controlling.
caught.
Right, he was controlling the fight. He had knocked down the guy.
His dad said what?
His dad said that the fight after this will be a tough one. You know, much tougher than this one against the 10-8 fighter, because Gary Stark's 27. Remember, the younger the fighter, the younger the prime. And 27 is not that young for junior featherweight.
Absolutely not. Good right hand to the body by Stark.
Stark's able to mix it up much better than Daluz.
Oh yeah,
mix up the attack.
He really likes that left hook there as a lead shot, as a lead punch. There it is again, and then a follow-up right. So left, right, nothing wrong with that. There's the jab, but Daluz wisely jabbed with him one of the few times.
Same problem for Daluz, just not busy enough.
Yeah.
Stark is starting to win each round by a little bit more than he won the round before.
Good point, good observation. Stark not wasting any motion, any energy, any punches. Flurrying before the bell each time, though, you notice. Steve, this guy, Robert Daluz, has a boatload of courage. There's no doubt about it. But when he told me yesterday that he wants to make this a war of attrition, those were simply words. He's not doing it.
Not at all. Yeah.
Stark controlling every round, controlling every minute of this fight for the most part. He did get hit early. Some right hands. But Stark wisely boxing. Just controlling the action.
And I think good matchmaking by Joe Chiambo, Lou DiBella's matchmaker, because Gary Stark, after the knockout loss to Bill Desmond, came back against the fighter who was 11-22, but who went the distance with him. That enabled Stark to get some of the confidence back. Same thing, a little bit tougher opponent this time. And again, Stark looking like he's likely to go the distance, but that's good.
And
given where he's at emotionally, I think that's good.
I also think taking him out of New York's not the worst thing in the world.
Very good point, yeah.
A lot of pressure on him to perform. Oh, bangs that right hand. We heard it here at ringside, but Daluz going nowhere. He could take a shot. Nice left hand from Daluz. Not much behind it, though. Now Stark trying to close the gap instead of walking in. Daluz moving more than punching. He's not going to win a round that way, let alone the fight.
He's going to have to do what Ledesma did. He's going to have to score a knockout against Gary Stark if he wants to win this fight.
Steve, you know, he's a tough man type of guy, and literally a tough man over 300. But you get the feeling, don't you, that Stark's felt his best shots and said he really can't hurt me. But again, that said, he didn't think Ledesma could hurt him going in. So the perfect kind of shot could do lethal type of damage.
Which brings up the question. I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, because I don't know if I know the answer. Is there such a thing in boxing as a lucky punch?
Well, there's a perfect punch sometimes, yeah, that nobody sees coming. And you can't always have your hands up, right? You've got to leave yourself vulnerable. It's boxing. Who doesn't get hit in a fight?
Sure. Because in his mind, Gary Stark has to view that Ledesma knockout right hand as a lucky punch.
Yeah.
For his own emotional protection. You think of
We'd have to ask Ledesma, does he think that was lucky?
Yeah, you know Ledesma's going to say, I drew it up that way.
Yeah, right.
You think of
Rahman Basquiat?
Yeah. And no, Rahman and Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis, right, the perfect right hand. Charles, Steve Farhood, ringside here in Hollywood, Florida. The Seminole Hard Rock Live Arena. Happy you could join us on Broadway Boxing. Brooklyn's Gary Stark on the comeback trail. He's lost twice this year. The last time in devastating fashion on Broadway Boxing. Not cold, as Steve mentioned, and there's that combination. That's a knockdown. And that's what Gary Stark needed, Steve.
6, 7, 8, right?
Stark's dad screaming to Gary, take your time.
Well, there's a lot of time in this round, and certainly Daluz doesn't look like he had his world rocked.
No, not at all.
Nice right hand, though, from Stark. So Stark, measured aggression, very good, not overly cautious, stringing shots together, chasing down Ledesma, or I should say Daluz. Daluz not punching at all now. A little bit of a fight taken out of him, it looks like to me, Steve.
He sure has. This is a different fighter. He fought hard for one round. And ever since, slowly, round by round, Gary Stark has broken down Daluz. In terms of will, not so much with big punches. Certainly with a steady attack, but not big power shots. If you're Gary Stark, Nick, if you're Gary Stark Sr., do you take Ledesma again if you can get him?
What would it prove? He was dominating him early. It was an 8-round fight, I believe, scheduled. I guess maybe for your mental state of mind. I don't think it's necessary.
Move
myself.
On?
Yeah, I would move on, but assess this performance and where he is on the ladder in terms of comeback.
No reduction in the work output of Stark here in the 8th round. He's fresh.
You know, on that Ledesma rematch, I mean, I just don't think there's any percentage in it. Even if he gets over the hump and knocks the guy out or doesn't look great doing it, sort of a sideways step maybe. But I wouldn't be adverse to it.
Well, for Gary Stark, each time he fights, he's going to be putting that Ledesma fight a little bit further in his past.
There you
That's
go.
the idea. Whoops.
Oh, slip.
Can't blame that one on a camera. There was no camera there.
And now a flurry as Stark gets busy. Boy, Daluz doesn't show any effects of that knockdown at all. He's starting to be the aggressor a little bit here down the stretch here.
And as Stark advances, as the opposition gets tougher, he's going to want to talking about his future and not with Desmond and his past.
Man, it's so cliche. Got to take one at a time. Build back up.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Hollywood, after 8 rounds of boxing, we go to the scorecards. All 3 judges, Bill Ray, Peter Trematera, and Rocky Young, score the bout 79-72 for the winner by unanimous decision, Gary Kid Stark.